Hi, my name is Sarwal and welcome to a series of quick interviews. Today, my guest is Divya Deswal. She works with pregnant ladies and babies. Hi, Divya.
Hi.
Please, would you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
My name is Divya Deswal, and I have completed half a century, so that's a lot of information in my background. I started off as a civil engineer, and then I became a mother, and I think that was the most profound moment of my life because it brought me back to who I was from what other people said I should be: educated, career, engineer, all the labels just went away. And then thereafter, my children were my best gurus. Like, they were the divine spirits that pushed me on a path. And I've been working with pregnant moms and babies ever since. And it's been quite a meandering path. And I've had wonderful divine coincidences that have brought me where I am. And meeting Sarvin was also one of those divine coincidences. So here we are. That's about me.
So how did you, from becoming a civil engineer, from becoming a civil engineer, how did you end up working with babies and pregnant ladies?
Yeah. Well, I love being an engineer. My thought process is still like an engineer. And it was a career that I chose. Actually, it was an education that I chose, not a career. And then I started working as a project manager. And then one day when I woke up, I knew I wanted to have a baby. And a lot of people want to ask me why was that. It wasn't age, it wasn't finances, it wasn't how many years I was married. It was just something that was the next step of my life. And if you think that your life is a spiritual journey, then that is where it was taking me, and I decided to have a baby. But I also instinctively knew that I wanted to be a full-time mom, not a part-time mom. I'm a all or nothing kind of person, so I wanted to be a full-time mom, and I gave up my job. And I enjoyed my journey of pregnancy. I conceived easily. I had a lovely pregnancy. Towards the end of my pregnancy, the doctor started to say, oh, the baby is very big, the baby is too high, this, that, and the other. Maybe we should schedule a C-section. And my only companion was my husband's grandmother, who said, ki haste khilte bacche ho jate hain. So I wanted that. I wanted the hasna khilna. So I resisted that intervention, and lo and behold, despite of doctors all educated guesses and warnings, my son arrived, and it changed my life. And it told me the potential we have as human beings to love, to connect. Even the biological functions we have are deeply spiritual. So from that moment, I knew that my child was a divine being, that he had a soul, he was sentient, and that it is a spiritual journey. And I started to look for something that other women don't have to do is alone. So not everybody's grandmother is there, and not everybody's listening to their grandmother also these days.
Right,
So I started to pick up science, and I love my traditions. I'm amazed at how rich we are culturally, that we have traditions that served science, logic, knowledge at the time that it was relevant. So if we kind of harvest those traditions for logic, for their essence, we have a very robust care system in our country. So I started to take traditions, try and squeeze them and see why did people do what they did, and then brought in my grandmother's wisdom, the science, and I started teaching a childbirth class. And then I had women in my class, and we made deep bonds. And because it was a common shared journey of having a baby, I knew how that felt, the vulnerability and the strength of it. I found that most people were scared and they didn't have that strength that maybe came because my grandmother was there, and because she's a woman who's had 5 babies at home. So, what's there to worry about? So I started teaching the class, and then I found myself at birth with those women. When they were in labor, they'd say, "Aap aa jao," and I would go. And I loved that work. There is nothing more in service of the Lord or the divine or the goddess than bringing a baby into the world. It is a completely different world. It's as if it's really profound. I'm not going to waste words on it because I'll never describe it. And then, when I went to the US, I realized that the work I was doing actually had a name, and I became a doula. And I looked at some of the trainings abroad, and when I came back, I thought that no, this Western education doesn't fit into our culture at all. So I went back to what I did best, picked up tradition, got into the science of it, So, a lot of our traditions are very, what are called good for the nervous system. I'll give you an example. In majority of cultures, the first baby, traditionally, we would send the woman to her mother's house. People might frown
Even
upon
today
it.
that
Lots of
happens.
cultures have it.
Even today it
So
happens.
now when we look at So now when we are looking at it, we are saying, oh, this is such an absurd thing. Why should she leave her house and go? But think of that girl, those years, was married at 10 or 12, was conceiving by 13, 14 or 15, maybe had a husband who was 15 years older, had a rigid, joint family. She was a young child herself. Where would she feel most safe? In her mother's house, where she could be indulged. She had, pados wali mausi or piche wali chachi. Everybody was having babies. Her own bhabhi may have been there. Her sisters may have been there. So in birth, what do we look for? Any mammal, what do they look for? Safety. That is why the stray dog finds the deepest part of the sewer to give birth. But humans don't only want physical safety. They also want emotional safety. We perceive threat emotionally. So mother's home became the haven or the container, safe container for that baby to come. And so, now if we take the essence of it, we just say, how do you feel safe emotionally and physically? Whether it is with the doctor, whether it's at home, with a dai, with a midwife, who are we to say how somebody feels safe? So I started to bring that content and I really loved it. And then my journey, so then I was going back to the US for a conference, and then I wrote to HypnoBirthing saying that I'm coming there. Can I learn? And they didn't reply, but the next year the training came here. I was writing a paper on birth centers. I arrived in a very small town in Minnesota, Midwest, and I found that what I came looking for didn't exist, but I met a wonderful midwife. So my life has been a series of opportunities which have not just knocked on my door, but jumped on me saying, hey, we are here, come on. And I'm very fortunate that I could embrace them. So I worked with a midwife, and we were sitting, and there was a baby who was crying for 11 days, had cried 8 to 10 hours a day. And there was a woman who was helping, and she put the hand on the baby's neck while the baby couldn't come to the breast. Within 15 minutes, the baby was quiet and was sucking. That was CranioSacral therapy. And that was in 2004. I was beginning my career. I came back and I researched everywhere, where can I study this? And at that time, it was open only to medical care providers, 2004. And interestingly, because I saw it with a breastfeeding baby, and that was my line of work, can you see the pieces come together? And then I said, okay, it's not for me, maybe not. I did other things, and that's a series of things. And then I got to know that the training was happening not anywhere else in the world, but right here in India. And I became a CranioSacral therapist. But I find that of all the modalities that I worked, it is one of the most gentle, most holistic, most, it's not just for the client, but as practitioners, we are nourished by that field. It's the most, if I ever have to choose one thing to do for the rest of my life, that would be it. And of course, that's how we met, didn't we?
Yeah, we met in Delhi.
Pursuit of knowledge.
Yes. I think I can never forget the day we first interacted also. That's still so much strongly there in me in Delhi. So I want to go back a little bit. What was the field that you talked about? What was it called when you said that when you went to US, you actually found out that this profession actually has a name? What was that name again?
So I found out that what I was doing was a doula.
Doula.
Labor support people are called doula. It's now a profession that you can take up. That you accompany women in labor and you support them mentally, physically, emotionally, informationally, and if you're in India, even spiritually.
Right. I think spiritually, I think everybody needs it, not just India, I think. Okay, so you said that you started organizing seminars. So what was the first thing that you did? I'm sure, like from a civil engineering background to suddenly jumping onto something which is so sensitive. What was the journey like? And What were the thoughts where you felt ki, no, I need to quit my job and now I need to get into this? So what was the transition like? What were the first few days? What were the first few months like? What did you research? What did you feel? What should be done? What is the curriculum look like? How did you do all of that research?
So interestingly, we are talking of a time there was no internet.
Yeah.
If you
Oh,
can
yeah, of
imagine
course.
that. If you
Yeah,
can
I
imagine
can.
that.
I can. I can.
So in 1995, I conceived. I gave up my job because I wanted to become a mother, but I wasn't pregnant. So,
Okay.
so it's interesting because now we say that every action starts with an intention.
Right.
Just the sheer intention of becoming a mother and making myself available to that baby coming.
Right.
I gave up my job, which was absolutely radical and shocking because everybody told me, how stupid is that? You're a engineer. Why do you have to give up your job right now? You should be, you can work till the last day. That's the approach of people. And it's interesting that when you look at pre and perinatal psychology and you're seeing the research that is coming out, say that 3 months before conception is when the cells, the germ cells, are beginning to develop. So a lot of what your life is at that time is imprinted on the genetics, which is the epigenetic change that will come in the baby. And I didn't know that, but it was instinctive. And when we look at BCST, which is Biodynamic CranioSacral therapy, we talk about a blueprint.
Right.
That is our blueprint. Nobody has to teach us that. If only we can listen to it. Because otherwise, what are you listening to? We are listening to, oh, but you're an engineer, why are you giving up your job? That is bullshit. So I had a very interesting conversation with a very dear friend of mine, and she said, "This is you're going back to the dark ages, and who does this?" So I said, "Yeah, why would you say that? Having a child is a personal choice." And she said, "No, इतना पढ़ लिख के अब तुम नौकरी छोड़ रहे हो और घर में बैठ जाओगे." So I said, basically, you're saying that if I am an independent woman, I'm only an independent woman if I'm a slave to my job. But I'm a dark age woman if I'm a slave to my home. Basically, but I'm a slave. If I have a degree, then the job is my master. If I'm uneducated, the kitchen is my master. The office or the kitchen. These are my only two choices.
This is amazing. I have to tell you, this is so progressive. This thought that you just said is so progressive that women need to listen to this today, because I feel in today's generation, like my age group people, they are so focused on career. They think that career is their independence, or their career is their the word that you just used, and it just opens up so much that I am not a slave. I am only a slave to my thoughts. I am only a slave to what the society is saying. No, it's not that. I want to have control of my life. Like, if I don't want to do a job, I don't want to do a job. Right? So it's beautifully put. Sorry, continue. I just had to make this point. Yeah.
Yes, I make this point all the time. And a lot of people talk about money. So I just said that money is a means to an end. What would I do with that money? Whatever I was earning, I was buying clothes, I was buying jewelry, I was enjoying myself. I cut that out. I made a choice and I stood by my choice. I cut that out. I never asked anybody for money for new clothes or otherwise. Sometimes in the few years that I was struggling to start another job or a career, it's still not a career, it's a calling. When I was before I earned money, I would wear anything anybody would give me, second-hand clothes, and be happy because I was living my choice. But the joy of being a mother and sharing that journey with your child, seeing the look in your child's eye when you develop that attachment, and what it gives to you. Forget what you can do for the child. अरे हम कौन है कुछ करने वाले, वो तो अपनी किस्मत लेके आया है. But what is he giving us? It was the most, you cannot buy that for any money. And now when my 24-year-old holds my hand in public, people laugh and say, really, a 24-year-old wants to stand with you, has a drink with you in a party, and kind of holds me. People are surprised, but that's attachment. Right. I don't have to teach him at this age. Every night when my 20-year-old kisses me goodnight, even when we have a party and they come to the room and say, "Good night, Mama, good night, Daddy," and kiss us, we don't have to teach them that. It's our lived experience. Nobody can buy that, no matter what your career is. But the
Nice.
second thing I want to say is that, is it important for you? For me, that was the most important thing. Family, people, trump anything else in the world. Careers can come and go. But look at the joy of it. If I'd been an engineer, I would have been a senior project manager in a large firm, drawing a good salary, driving to work at 9, coming back at 9 because sites work 9 to 9. When I chose this job, I had a tremendous joy and journey in terms of fame. There are days I can Google my name and 3 pages come up on Google.
Wow.
The reward of it. So this is called bina phal ki ichha kiye karo. Just do the right thing. Just step in the right direction. Don't forget that the core of us, I mean, if you take BCST, the core of us is where the original blueprint breathed life into us. The waters are holding that print, right? So even the core of us is the true purpose of who we are, or the blueprint of who we are. How can we go wrong tuning into ourselves? It's actually bringing us back to it. And everything else is a ripple effect of that, your authentic truth. But how many of us are actually living authentic truths?
Right.
And this idea that we are independent and yet we are shaped by public opinion is the worst paradox we could ever live in.
True, so true, so true.
You can't tell me what I mean. But the whole world is already telling you, pre-verbal stage, who you are, what you should be, how you should conduct yourself. That is why we buy clothes or dress up. It's not independent living. Are we as human beings truly independent ever? That is an inquiry we should make every morning and night.
You know, there's a very funny saying in our generation that when we are in a group, like, and we are in a party setting, we'll dance to jazz music. You know, it's cool, it's society, it's, you know, you have to act cool. But as soon as you're alone, you start playing Govinda and you start dancing. You know,
bicycle chalai jate ho.
Yeah. So, and I am one person who believes that, like, it's my mood. I don't have, like, there have been so many people who have come up and said that, why do you do this? How can you be like this? You need to eat in a particular way. You will never get married if you eat like this. Like, if you eat dosa in a messy way, you will never get married. What will the girl think and all of that? See, I'm a Madu, so the whole point of everything that I do is connected to marriage. So it's like, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to change the way I eat dosa just because somebody is going to judge me, because this is how I eat.
If you do and get married, you're committing fraud. Either with her or with yourself.
So I'm like, listen, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to be. So yeah, I think it's not just in women. I think men also have a very similar pattern with respect to, you know, like the fact that the biggest battle that I fight is, why do men need to have the pressure to be a provider? Right. I think you can relate to that because you've been a successful individual with respect to career as well. And it's like there's so many, and it's like we're fed, like how girls are fed that you need to cook bachpan se. Similarly, men are like forced to think about, you have to make money, you have to make money, you have to make money. Of course, money is important. Everybody knows that, everybody gets it. But what are your thoughts on those things? And also, if you can just share, how did you start with those seminars? What was the journey like with those seminars?